They called him Irish Micky Ward, not for the fame, not for the belts, but for the kind of courage you can't fake. In a sport built on blood and glory, Ward wasn't the most talented fighter. He didn't have the speed of Mayweather or the power of Tyson. But what he had was rarer, an unbreakable heart that refused to stop beating, even when the odds said he should. Most fighters chase greatness through victory. Micky Ward earned it through pain. Every time he stepped into the ring, fans knew they weren't just watching a fight, they were witnessing a man willing to go through hell to reach heaven. He was the working-class warrior from Lowell, Massachusetts, who made the world believe that toughness isn't measured by wins, but by how many times you stand up after being knocked down. People thought of him as an underdog, a journeyman, but his trilogy with Arturo Gatti rewrote that story forever. In those 9 brutal rounds of the first fight, he showed the heart of a lion and the soul of a fighter who never quit. This is not just another boxing story, this is a deep dive into the life, the struggles, and the relentless fire of a man who proved that pain can be beautiful. Welcome to Boxing Chronicles. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, because today we uncover the legend of Micky Ward. Before he became a symbol of courage, Micky Ward was just a kid trying to survive in the rough streets of Lowell, Massachusetts, a place where dreams were hard to find, and fighting was part of daily life. Born on October 4th, 1965, into a working-class Irish-American family, Micky grew up in a world where money was scarce, tempers ran high, and toughness wasn't optional. It was survival. His home life was far from easy. His father left early, leaving his mother to raise 9 children in a cramped, chaotic household. In a town haunted by unemployment and addiction, Micky found escape in the boxing gym, a tiny, sweat-soaked refuge where discipline replaced chaos. And right beside him was his half-brother, Dickie Eklund, a local hero who had once gone toe-to-toe with the great Sugar Ray Leonard. Dickie became Micky's first mentor, the one who taught him how to slip punches, throw a left hook to the body, and, more importantly, how to keep fighting when life hits harder than any opponent. But Dickie's own battles with addiction would soon cast a long shadow over Micky's path. While other kids dreamed of leaving Lowell, Micky stayed. He learned that greatness doesn't come from talent alone. It's forged in hardship. Every cracked sidewalk, every argument at home, every bruise from sparring built the man who would later make the world stand still in awe. In a neighborhood where few believed in happy endings, Micky found his purpose in pain. And though he didn't know it yet, that pain would become the foundation of his legend. Micky Ward's journey into professional boxing wasn't glamorous, wasn't decorated with medals or Olympic fame. It was built on grit, long drives to small venues, and the echo of gloves hitting canvas in half-empty halls. After a modest amateur career in the early 1980s, Micky turned professional in 1985. He was just 20 years old, a kid from Lowell with nothing but a left hook and a dream too stubborn to die. His early years in the ring were a grind. He fought in small-town arenas across New England, often earning just enough to pay rent and gas. He didn't have a powerful promoter or fancy management, only his brother Dickie in his corner, shouting advice and believing when no one else did. But boxing, like life, doesn't play fair. As Dickie's personal struggles deepened, Micky's momentum began to fade. In the early 90s, after a string of losses and mounting injuries, Micky stepped away from the sport entirely. Most thought that was the end of the story, another fighter broken by the system. He took a job paving roads for the city of Lowell, spending long days under the sun, asphalt on his hands, boxing gloves collecting dust in a corner. But deep down, the fire never went out. Every thud of a shovel reminded him of a punch. Every ache in his body whispered that he still had one more round left. After 3 years away, Micky made a quiet but determined comeback in 1994. He wasn't chasing fame, he was chasing redemption. And this time he fought not for a paycheck, but for pride. The blue-collar fighter was back, older, tougher, hungrier. The world hadn't noticed yet, but the legend of Irish Micky Ward was just beginning to take shape. If you ever watched Micky Ward fight, you could feel it, the raw grinding energy of a man who had built himself from the ground up. His power wasn't genetic, his endurance wasn't gifted. Everything about him was earned through repetition, pain, and an almost spiritual kind of suffering. Training for Micky wasn't about looking good or hitting hard. It was about lasting longer than anyone else could. His mornings started before sunrise with long road runs through the cold Massachusetts air, the kind that burned your lungs and froze your fingers. While others hit the snooze button, Micky was already chasing miles, chasing ghosts of failure, and conditioning his legs to carry him through hellish late rounds. In the gym, his routine was brutal and unrelenting. Jump rope, heavy bag, speed bag, shadow boxing, and endless rounds of sparring. He wasn't the flashiest fighter, but few trained harder. His left hook to the body, the punch that would one day define his career, was forged through thousands of repetitions, thrown until his knuckles bled and his arms screamed for rest. Dickie, when sober and focused, drilled him relentlessly. "That's your bread and butter, Mick. Hit the liver. Take his soul." Ward didn't rely on modern science or fancy equipment. His training was old school, running hills, chopping wood, carrying sandbags. He believed that the body could only go where the mind allowed. His workouts weren't about muscles. They were about mentality. Every bead of sweat was a promise that when the bell rang, he'd never be the one to quit first. His preparation also reflected his humility. He wasn't surrounded by luxury or cameras. Most days, his training partners were friends from the neighborhood, guys who'd work a shift and then spar 6 rounds just to help him stay sharp. His diet was simple, his lifestyle Spartan. No parties, no headlines, just focus. What truly set Micky apart, though, was how he trained his heart. He didn't just practice punches, he practiced pain. In sparring, he welcomed body shots, pushed through exhaustion, and refused to take an easy way out. "If you can suffer more than your opponent," he once said, "you've already won." That philosophy turned every training camp into a war zone. Each session was another battle against himself, to endure more, to break less. And in those quiet hours, when no one was watching, the myth of Irish Micky Ward was forged. By the time he stepped into the ring, Micky wasn't just ready, he was prepared to bleed. Because he knew that boxing isn't about who hits harder, it's about who refuses to fall. To understand Micky Ward, you have to understand his mind, a mind wired not for glamour or fame, but for survival. He was never obsessed with being the best. He was obsessed with being tougher than yesterday. In a sport where many chase perfection, Ward chased endurance. He believed that pain was just proof you were still in the fight. He carried a simple, almost old-fashioned mentality. Work hard, stay humble, keep your head down. His inspiration didn't come from the bright lights of Las Vegas, but from the cracked streets of Lowell, where quitting meant losing more than a fight. It meant giving up on life itself. Every time he laced his gloves, he represented the grinders, the workers, the people who got up before dawn and came home long after sunset. Fear never left him, but he learned to turn it into fuel. "If you're not scared," he once said, "you're not alive." That fear sharpened him, kept him alert, made him human. He visualized each round in his head, every punch he'd throw, every moment he'd be hurt, and every time he'd push through it. Micky's discipline bordered on obsession. He didn't drink, didn't party, didn't waste energy proving himself outside the ring. He saved it all for the bell. While others fought for pride or money, Ward fought for something purer, the right to stand tall when the final round ended. What separated Micky wasn't physical strength. It was his refusal to break. He'd walk through punches that would fold other men, not because he didn't feel them, but because he refused to give them power. In the end, his psychology became his greatest weapon. Not aggression, not arrogance, but endurance. The heart of a working-class man who knew that pain passes, but pride lasts forever. If Micky Ward's life had a heartbeat, it was the trilogy with Arturo Gatti. 3 wars that turned 2 men into legends, not because of titles or records, but because of what they showed inside the ropes. Pure, unfiltered heart. The first fight on May 18, 2002, in Uncasville, Connecticut, wasn't supposed to be historic. Gatti was the star, the favorite. Ward was the journeyman, the tough opponent brought in to test him. But from the opening bell, something electric happened. Both men threw everything they had. Power shots, combinations, willpower. Then came the 9th round, one of the greatest in boxing history. Ward landed his trademark left hook to Gatti's body, a punch so precise, so devastating, that Gatti folded in pain, only to rise again. What followed was chaos, both fighters trading like their lives depended on it, refusing to fall. When the bell rang, the crowd stood on their feet, not for a winner, but for two warriors who had given every ounce of themselves. Ward won by majority decision, but the real victory was mutual respect. The rematch in 2003 flipped the script. Gatti came prepared, sharper, faster. Ward suffered a broken hand early in the fight, but kept going. He lost on the scorecards, but never in spirit. Their third and final fight, later that same year, was the perfect ending. Brutal, beautiful, and drenched in mutual admiration. When it was over, both men embraced, bloodied but smiling, knowing they had made history together. Their trilogy earned Fight of the Year honors twice from the Ring magazine and became a timeless symbol of what boxing truly is. Not skill versus skill, but heart versus heart. Even legends like Joe Frazier and Sugar Ray Leonard called it one of the most courageous rivalries ever witnessed. Beyond the Gatti fights, Ward's career was filled with moments of quiet triumph. He captured the WBU light welterweight title in 2000, a crowning achievement after years of struggle. But it wasn't the belt that defined him. It was his authenticity. He was never the fastest, never the most technical, but he was the fighter fans loved most because he made them feel something. When Micky Ward fought, you didn't just watch a bout. You lived through a storm of humanity. Micky Ward's career was never smooth. It was carved through failure, pain, and the kind of resilience most men only find in their darkest moments. Before the world saw him as a hero, he was just another fighter struggling to stay relevant in a sport that forgets its own. In the early 90s, his career hit rock bottom. A series of losses, injuries, and personal turmoil pushed him to walk away from boxing altogether. He spent years working construction and paving roads in Lowell, calloused hands by day, restless dreams by night. Many fighters never come back from that, but Micky wasn't many. Fighters. Deep inside, something kept whispering, "You're not done yet." When he returned in 1994, few cared. Promoters overlooked him, critics dismissed him, but Ward fought anyway, for himself, for his family, for the people of Lowell who saw in him a reflection of their own struggles. He rebuilt his career one small victory at a time, winning fights that weren't supposed to matter until they did. Even in victory, the pain never stopped. Ward battled chronic hand injuries and scar tissue that turned every jab into agony. He fought opponents 10 years younger, faster, stronger, and still refused to give in. After his wars with Gatti, he finally hung up the gloves in 2003 with a record of 38 wins, 13 losses. But those numbers didn't tell the story. His legacy wasn't about winning, it was about never surrendering. Ward's greatest comeback wasn't in the ring, it was in life. He overcame the chaos of his past, helped his brother Dickie recover from addiction, and became a mentor for young fighters. He proved that redemption doesn't need headlines, just heart. Micky Ward didn't escape pain. He embraced it, turned it into purpose, and stood tall where others would have fallen. Micky Ward retired without a world title from the major sanctioning bodies. Yet ask any boxing fan who truly loved the sport, and his name will rise before many champions. Because in the brutal theater of boxing, Ward represented something purer, the soul of the working man, the embodiment of courage that no belt can measure. His legacy is built on authenticity. Every time he stepped into the ring, he carried the pride of blue-collar America, the spirit of those who fight their battles quietly and keep going no matter what. Ward never needed theatrics or trash talk. His fists spoke for him. His trilogy with Arturo Gatti became the gold standard for heart, respect, and brotherhood in combat. When Gatti passed away in 2009, Micky mourned him like a fallen brother, proof that some rivalries transcend competition and become family. Beyond the ring, his story found new life through cinema. The 2010 Academy Award-winning film, The Fighter, starring Mark Wahlberg as Ward and Christian Bale as Dickie Eklund, brought his journey to millions worldwide. But what touched audiences most wasn't the victories, it was the honesty. It showed a man who had no excuses, no shortcuts, just a relentless belief that pain could be transformed into purpose. Ward's influence continues in gyms across America, where young fighters study his body shots, his discipline, and his humility. Trainers tell their students, "You don't have to be perfect, just be like Micky, don't quit." His story reminds us that greatness isn't about perfection, it's about perseverance. He taught the world that, even in defeat, you can still inspire victory. And that sometimes, the hardest battles aren't fought in the ring, but within yourself. Micky Ward's gloves may be hung up, but his heartbeat still echoes in every fighter who refuses to stay down. When the final bell of his career rang, Micky Ward didn't walk away as a millionaire or a world champion. He walked away as something rarer, a legend of the people. His record didn't define him, his heart did. In every punch he threw, every round he endured, there was a message. Greatness isn't given, it's earned, one bruise at a time. He wasn't born special, he wasn't born with power or privilege. He was built through pain, through work, through every moment he could have quit, but didn't. And that's what made him unforgettable. Ward showed that victory isn't about the scoreboard, it's about the courage to stand when everything inside you wants to fall. Today, his story lives beyond boxing. It lives in anyone who's ever struggled, failed, and found the strength to rise again. Because Micky Ward wasn't just a fighter in the ring, he was a fighter in life. So when people ask, what makes a true champion? Maybe it's not the belts, not the fame, not the knockouts. Maybe it's the heart. Which part of Micky Ward's journey moved you the most? His comeback, his wars with Gatti, or his relentless spirit? Let us know in the comments below. And if you believe in the kind of courage that never quits, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Only here on Boxing Chronicles.